Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Rashad Miller, and I am 33 years old. The moment my wife told her college friends that she had married too young, I knew I was finished. Not hurt, not shocked, just finished. We were sitting in a crowded bar in Evanston, Illinois, a place across from the Northwestern University campus that smelled like spilled beer and old memories. It was the 10-year reunion for my wife Jasmine's graduating class. I sat at a high-top table with her and 6 of her former sorority sisters while music thumped in the background and televisions flashed college football highlights overhead. Everyone around me was talking at once, the way people do when they're trying to prove that life worked out for them. They passed phones back and forth, showing pictures of engagements, babies, vacations, remodeled kitchens. Jasmine had loosened up after 3 or 4 drinks, her voice getting louder each time she told a story about their Northwestern days. I watched her eyes shine with nostalgia as she talked about late-night pizza runs and cramming for exams and sneaking into the football stadium. I had heard most of the stories before, but she laughed like they were new again. I sat there with a beer in my hand, smiling when I was supposed to try not to count how many times she said she missed those days. Her friends moved on to talking about their current lives. Alicia, who sat closest to me, had just gotten engaged and could not stop flashing her ring, tilting it so the light from the bar lamps caught the diamond. She kept grabbing Jasmine's hand and squealing about bridesmaids' dresses and venues. Across the table, Brittany held court about her adventures on dating applications, about ridiculous first dates and ghosting, and how much fun she was having being single. Brittany leaned back in her chair, let out a loud laugh, and said, "I am so glad I am not married yet. There is still so much fun to have." Alicia clutched her chest, giving a mock offended look. "Hey, marriage can be fun too. Right, Jasmine?" Jasmine did not even pause. She did not look at me. She did not squeeze my knee under the table. She just lifted her glass and said, clearly and confidently, "Honestly, I think I'm married too young." We both did. I swear time slowed for 2 seconds. The table went silent just long enough for my stomach to drop. Then the chorus started. 2 of her friends leaned forward, nodding eagerly. "You two got married right out of college, did you not?" one said. "You totally missed out on your 20s, another added. "I cannot imagine being tied down that young." Jasmine nodded along, lips curving in this rueful smile. "Exactly. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I had waited." I had been sitting there quietly, my fingers wrapped around my beer bottle. I set it down carefully on the table, like it was something fragile I did not want to break. I looked directly at Jasmine, then at each of her friends in turn. My voice was calm when I spoke. "It is never too late to fix a mistake." I watched the words land in slow motion. Jasmine's forehead creased. Alicia's mouth fell open. Brittany's eyes went wide. Before anyone could respond, I stood, pulled my wallet from my back pocket, and set $40 on the table to cover my drinks. The noise of the bar pressed in around us, but at our table there was only stunned silence. I did not make a scene. I did not shout or slam anything. I simply turned and walked away from that high-top table, threading through the crowd toward the door. The silence from Jasmine and her friends followed me like a shadow. I heard Brittany's voice as I reached for the handle. "Wait, was he serious?" she asked. I did not turn around. I stepped out into the cool Illinois autumn night, the air crisp against my face, and felt my shoulders drop for the first time in months. I walked to my car, got in, and drove north along Lakeshore Drive, the dark water to my right, the city lights to my left, heading straight for my brother Leon's apartment in the Rogers Park neighborhood. That was the place I had already decided I would go. I had been planning this for 3 weeks. This was not some emotional, spur-of-the-moment reaction. It was the final confirmation of what I had been documenting for 18 months. I had started the note on my phone the night I overheard Jasmine telling her sister that she sometimes felt trapped in marriage. I told myself that everyone vented sometimes, that it did not mean anything. But I wrote it down anyway. Then there was another comment. Then another. Over a year and a half, those little moments piled up like stones. That night after the reunion, I slept on Leon's old leather couch, the one that squeaked every time I shifted. My phone lit up on the coffee table like a strobe light. When I finally turned the screen face up at sunrise, it showed 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. The voicemails played in sequence when I finally listened to them, my thumb hovering over the screen. Jasmine's voice cycled through emotions. At first she was furious. "I cannot believe you walked out like that," she said. Then she was hurt. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends." Then confused. "Where did you go? Call me back. We need to talk." By the last message, left around 3 o'clock in the morning, her voice had gone small and exhausted. "Please come home. We need to talk about this, Rashad. Please." I let the phone drop onto my chest, staring up at the ceiling of Leon's apartment as the gray light seeped in through the blinds. Leon shuffled out of his bedroom around 8 in the morning, scratching his head and heading straight for the kitchen. He is 35, 2 years divorced, and had that particular look of someone who has slept in an old college t-shirt for 3 nights in a row. He saw me lying there, staring at my phone. He did not need to ask. He glanced at the phone screen, saw the number of missed calls, and just nodded. "About time, man," he said as he poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. He handed one to me and sat in the armchair across from the couch. "So," he said, blowing on his coffee, "did she finally say it out loud?" Around 9:30, someone knocked on the door, hard enough to rattle it in the frame. Leon set his cup down and went to answer it. I stayed where I was, sitting up slowly, as if bracing for impact. Leon opened the door only a few inches. "He does not want to talk to you," Leon said, his voice firm. "This is ridiculous." Jasmine's voice came from the hallway. It was one comment. Leon started to close the door, but I stood. "Let her in," I said. "I wanted this conversation." Leon stepped aside but stayed within earshot, leaning against the kitchen doorway with his arms crossed as Jasmine stormed past him into the living room. Jasmine stopped short when she saw my face. Her hair was messy, eyes swollen from crying, makeup smudged faintly under her lower lashes. She pointed an accusing finger at me. "You embarrassed me in front of all my friends," she said. I looked at her for a long beat, keeping my voice even. "I embarrassed you," I said. "That is an interesting perspective." She rolled her eyes. "I was just venting, Rashad. Everyone complains about marriage sometimes. You made it into something huge." I tilted my head. "Does everyone do it? Or is that just what you've been telling yourself to feel better?" I asked. Her mouth tightened. "You are overreacting to nothing." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the notes application. My thumb scrolled to the list I had been keeping for 18 months. July 18th, I read, "You told your mother that marriage was harder than you expected and you felt trapped." Jasmine's face went pale. August 3rd, I continued, my voice still calm. "You told your sister that if you could do it over, you would have traveled more before settling down. That you wished you had lived alone in your 20s. She stared at my screen, eyes darting. "You have been tracking what I say." Her voice rose. "That is controlling, Rashad." I shook my head slowly. "I have been listening to what you say," I replied. "There is a difference." I scrolled again. September 9th. "You told Alicia on the phone that you envied her single life and that she was smart to wait it out." September 22nd, 3 days ago. "You told Brittany that sometimes you wonder if you married the right person." I turned the phone so she could see the screen. 14 documented instances over 18 months. Each one had a date, who she had said it to, and the exact quote as close as I could remember it. Jasmine's shoulders slumped as she read down the list, watching her own words stare back at her. "I did not mean it," she said finally, the defensiveness draining from her tone and desperation creeping in. "It was just talk, Rashad. You know how people are." I was frustrated. I was drunk. I was venting. It did not mean anything. I shook my head. "It is not just talk when you mean it every time," I said. Jasmine grasped a new angle. "You are still holding that thing from graduate school against me," she said. "That is what this is really about, is it not?" I did not blink. "What thing from graduate school?" I asked. "Say it." She folded her arms. "It was nothing. Just some text messages. I already told you that 100 times. Text messages where you told another man you were falling for him," I said, my voice low. "We never did anything physical, Rashad," she insisted. "And you forgave me. We went to counseling. You said we were past that." I nodded once. "We did go to counseling," I said. "I believed you when you said you would appreciate what we had. I believed you when you cried and said you had learned your lesson. But you did not learn gratitude, Jasmine. You learned that I would tolerate disrespect." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "What do you want me to do?" she whispered. "Nothing," I said. Because I've already done what I needed to do. I've been talking to a lawyer for 3 weeks. She stumbled back a step. You what? She asked. It is a community property state, I said. We will split everything fairly. I will be out of the house by Wednesday. Panic flashed across her face. What am I supposed to do with the mortgage? She demanded. Pay it, I said. You make good money now, remember? Thanks in part to me putting you through school. Her eyes filled with tears again. I cannot afford it alone, she said. I picked up my jacket from the back of the couch. Then sell it. I answered. It will not be my problem anymore. I slipped my arms into my jacket sleeves. Go home, I said quietly. I will be there in an hour to get my things. Please be gone when I arrive. She looked at me like she was searching for the version of me who used to bend first. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. I shrugged. Your friends seem to think being single is great, I said. Go find out. Jasmine flinched like I'd slapped her, then turned on her heel and pushed past Leon. The door closed behind her with more force than necessary. Leon let out a low whistle. You sure about this? He asked. I nodded. I have never been more sure of anything, I said. He studied me for a moment. Then I am with you, he replied. She was not gone when I pulled up in front of our small brick house in Oak Park an hour later. Her car was in the driveway where it always sat. I felt my jaw tighten as I parked on the street and walked up the familiar front steps. The house looked the same as it had the previous morning, but everything felt different. Inside, boxes were scattered everywhere, some half-packed by her, some empty. Jasmine was pacing between the living room and the kitchen, phone in hand. My parents are on their way, she said immediately. They want to talk to you. I went to the bedroom and pulled suitcases from the closet without answering. I packed methodically. Shirts, pants, suits. Important documents from the desk drawer. My childhood photo albums that my mother had given me. A few books I loved. Jasmine followed me from room to room like a shadow. What about counseling? She asked. We can go back. We have not done that in years. We only tried it after the emotional affair. We could try again now. I have changed, Rashad. I really have. I folded another shirt and placed it on the stack. You have changed into someone who publicly regrets marrying me, I said. That is an interesting change. She shook her head. I was drunk, she said. People say stupid things when they are drunk. Drunk words are sober thoughts, I said quietly. Jasmine let out a frustrated sound. You are being so cold, she said. You are throwing away 8 years over one night. I stopped folding and turned to face her fully. I'm ending this because of 18 months of hearing how much you regret being married, I said. Last night was just the first time you finally said it in front of me in a room full of people. Before she could answer, the front door opened and her parents walked in without knocking. Charles and Denise Porter stepped into the living room, wearing matching looks of confusion and concern. Charles looked at the boxes. Rashad, what's going on? He asked. Denise's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, honey, she said to Jasmine. It was just talk. Jasmine insisted. Just girl talk. Everyone vents. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up a manila folder I had brought with me. I had printed my notes that morning at Leon's place. I have been keeping track, I said, handing the folder to Charles. 18 months worth. Charles opened it and began to read. His face shifted with each page, his expression moving from confusion to discomfort to anger. Denise read over his shoulder, her eyes widening. Jasmine Marie, Denise said quietly, you said all of this while he was supporting you through school? Jasmine's eyes filled again. It is not like it sounds, she said. He offered. I did not ask him to do all that. I shook my head lightly. You are right, I said. You did not have to ask. You simply expected it. Charles looked up at me. How much did you contribute while she was in graduate school? He asked. I had practiced this part. About $32,000 for tuition, I said. Around $66,000 for rent over 3 years. Plus groceries, utilities, car insurance, medical bills, car repairs. If we round it conservatively, call it $95,000 in total. Charles turned to his daughter. Is this true? He asked. Jasmine lifted her chin stubbornly. He offered, she repeated. I did not force him. Denise's eyes narrowed. And what have you been contributing since graduation? Denise asked. Jasmine glanced away. Nothing, she said. I corrected her. About 20% of monthly expenses, I said. She puts the rest into her savings account. Denise and Charles looked at me. How much is that now? Charles asked. She has about $75,000 saved. I answered. I have 12,000. Charles stared at his daughter like he was trying to recognize her. You have been banking almost all your money while he carried the load, he said slowly. Jasmine crossed her arms again. I was building security, she said. Security from what? Denise asked softly. Your marriage. Jasmine's eyes flashed. You do not understand what it is like being married so young, she said. Charles shook his head. I married your mother at 23, he said. We did not have much, but we had respect. I have never once regretted it publicly or privately. I carried another box out to my trunk. Charles followed me onto the porch. Rashad, I am sorry, he said quietly as I placed the box down. We raised her better than this. I closed the trunk and looked at him. I thought so too, I said. There was nothing else to add. I drove back to Leon's apartment that afternoon and called my lawyer on Monday morning. Jasmine was served with divorce papers at her office on Tuesday. She called me 19 times that day. I did not answer. She showed up at my office downtown, eyes red and cheeks flushed. My receptionist called my extension. Your wife is in the lobby, she said. She says it is urgent. I stared at my computer screen for a moment, then said, please tell her I will speak through my attorney. Wednesday, Jasmine sent a 2,000-word email that read like a confession and an accusation in one. She said I was being cruel and vindictive, that I was giving up on us over a few careless comments, that I was trying to punish her. I replied with a single sentence. You had 18 months to change, I wrote. You chose not to. On Thursday, Denise called me. She is devastated, Denise said. She says she cannot eat or sleep. Is there anything she can do to fix this? I closed my eyes for a moment, listening to the tremor in Denise's voice. She could start by being honest with herself about why this happened. I said. Denise sighed. She is telling everyone that you are controlling, Denise said. That you keep lists of everything she does wrong. I nodded even though she could not see me. I know, I said. 3 mutual friends have reached out already. Denise hesitated. For what it is worth, Charles and I believe you, she said. We saw the documentation. We saw the bank statements. We know you carried her. I swallowed. Thank you, I said. That means more than you know. Friday evening, Jasmine showed up at Leon's apartment again. This time she had done her hair and makeup carefully, wearing a soft sweater I had bought her 2 Christmases ago. She held a bag of my favorite takeout in one hand. Leon opened the door and raised an eyebrow. Really, he asked. I need to talk to him, she said, peering past him. Please, Leon. I came to the door. No, I said. 5 minutes, she pleaded. Just 5 minutes. I shook my head. You can talk to my lawyer, I said. Stop saying that, Jasmine snapped. I am your wife. I looked her in the eye. Not for long, I answered. Her face crumpled, and she began crying right there in the hallway. Leon looked uncomfortable. Jasmine, go home, he said gently. Please. You are not helping yourself. I do not want to lose you. Jasmine sobbed, her voice thick. You lost me when you decided I was not enough, I said. She reached for my sleeve, but I stepped back, and Leon slowly closed the door. Her muffled crying faded as she walked away. 3 weeks later, we sat across from each other in a mediation office in a high-rise downtown. The room had neutral gray walls and a long wooden table. Jasmine had hired an expensive attorney with a sharp navy suit and a leather folder. My attorney, Stephen Murphy, was a straightforward man in his 40s with a firm handshake and a calm voice. The mediator, Ms. Graham, sat between us with a yellow legal pad. Jasmine's lawyer smiled confidently. My client is willing to split all assets 50-50, she began. Stephen slid a thick folder across the table toward the mediator and Jasmine's lawyer. Let us review the documentation first, he said. For the next hour, we went line by line through our financial life. Every bank statement, every mortgage payment, every student loan payment I had made on Jasmine's behalf, every monthly budget draft I had quietly kept. Stephen explained my contributions to her tuition and living expenses during graduate school, the disparity in our savings accounts, and the way our monthly bills had actually been divided. Jasmine's lawyer's confidence faded as the numbers added up. My client contributed household labor and emotional support, she said finally. She handled most of the cooking and cleaning. She supported him emotionally through difficult times. My client did all the lawn maintenance, home repairs, and carried approximately 85% of the financial burden, Stephen replied evenly. Additionally, there was an emotional affair during graduate school, which my client chose to forgive. We have counseling records to support that. Jasmine's lawyer went pale. She leaned toward Jasmine and whispered something. Jasmine's eyes widened, and she shook her head, whispering back quickly, but her lawyer held up a hand to quiet her. They negotiated back and forth, offers sliding in both directions like chess pieces. Eventually, Jasmine's lawyer asked if she could speak to me alone. The mediator and the attorney stepped out, leaving Jasmine and me on opposite sides of the table. "Rashad, please," she said as soon as the door closed. "We can fix this. We do not have to do it this way. I know I messed up." I shook my head. "You did not mess up," I said. "You made choices. Over and over. For 18 months. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I was scared," she said. "Scared of missing out. All my friends were traveling, dating, posting their lives online. I felt like I had skipped a step. I folded my hands. And now you will not miss out," I said. "You will have exactly what you said you wanted. Freedom." She let out a humorless laugh. "This is not freedom," she said. "This feels like punishment." I met her eyes. "Fair would have been you appreciating what you had while you had it," I said. When the attorneys and mediator came back in, we finalized the agreement. I received 60% of the shared assets. Jasmine kept the house, but had to refinance it to buy out my equity. She kept her $75,000 in savings. I kept my retirement account untouched. There would be no spousal support. Jasmine's hands shook as she signed each page. I signed calmly, my pen steady. Outside the building, on the sidewalk where cars hissed past on wet pavement, Jasmine tried one last time. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said, hugging her coat tighter around herself. "But you did," I answered. Repeatedly. She swallowed. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you figure out if being single is really what you thought it would be," I said. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked quietly. "That is not your business anymore," I replied, and walked away. Over the next month, the fallout unfolded in slow motion. 3 couples we had been close with reached out to me. 2 of them sided with me after hearing the full story and seeing the way I had documented everything. 1 couple tried to stay neutral, saying they loved us both and did not want to choose. Jasmine told her version of events to anyone who would listen. "He gave up on us over 1 comment," she said. "He walked out of a bar instead of talking to me." What she did not know was that her college friends already knew the truth. They had been there that night. One afternoon, Alicia sent me a message. "I'm sorry," she wrote. "We should have stopped her from talking like that." I responded, "It was not your responsibility." But I appreciated the gesture. Charles called me every week for a while. Sometimes he asked how I was doing. Sometimes he just talked about work or sports, and then slipped in a quiet apology for Jasmine's behavior. "You handled this with more grace than I would have," he said during one longer call. During another, his voice was more contemplative. "Denise and I have been talking," he said, "about how we raised Jasmine, about what we might have missed." I shook my head, even though he could not see me. "You did not miss anything," I said. "People make their own choices." Charles sighed. "She was always a bit entitled," he admitted, "even as a kid. Always wanted what other kids had. Never quite satisfied with what she got." I thought back to arguments over vacations and presents, to the way Jasmine would scroll through social media and then complain that our life felt small. "I saw some of that," I said quietly. "We should have corrected it more," Charles continued. "Denise feels terrible. She keeps saying we should have taught her more gratitude." I leaned back on Leon's couch, staring at a water stain on the ceiling. "You cannot teach someone to be grateful if they do not want to learn," I said. There was a pause. "She asked us for money last month," Charles said. "For the house?" I asked. "No, for general expenses," he replied. "She said everything was more expensive than she expected." I told her, "Welcome to adulthood." Denise wanted to wire her the money. I said no. I told her she has to live with the consequences of her choices. I imagined Jasmine hearing that from her father and bristling. "That must have been hard," I said. "It was necessary," Charles answered. "She has been living in a bubble, Rashad. Your bubble. She needs to learn what things actually cost." Denise got on the phone after that. "Rashad, honey, I am so sorry," she said. "You do not have anything to apologize for," I replied. "I do," she insisted. I made excuses for her. When she complained about the marriage, I would tell Charles it was just normal venting. I did not want to see what was really happening. I did not want to believe she was that ungrateful when you were doing so much. I rubbed my forehead. Most parents would not want to see that, I said. You were good to her, Denise said. Better than she deserves sometimes. I hope you find someone who appreciates that. Truly, I am working on it, I said. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, feeling more sorry for them than for Jasmine. They were good people. Somewhere along the way, their daughter had missed the lesson about gratitude. Jasmine kept trying to reach me. In week 5 after I left, she sent flowers to Leon's apartment, a huge arrangement of lilies and roses. The card said, "I miss my husband." Leon looked at me over the bouquet. "What do you want to do with these?" he asked. I took the card out, read it once, and put it in the trash. "Let us donate the flowers to the nursing home down the block," I said. "At least someone there will enjoy them." In week 6, she posted on social media about biggest regrets and taking people for granted. I had already blocked her, but mutual friends sent screenshots. They added their own commentary, their patience with her narrative wearing thin. In week 7, she showed up at a bar Leon and I liked in the South Loop, coincidentally there with friends. I saw her across the room, her eyes following me. I finished my beer, nodded to Leon, and walked out without saying a word. In week 8, she texted from a new number. "I'm in therapy now, learning about myself," she wrote. "Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a minute, thumb hovering. "I'm glad you're getting help," I replied. "But no." She responded immediately. "Please. I understand now what I did wrong." "Understanding is not the same as deserving another chance," I wrote back. There was a long pause. Then, "How long are you going to punish me?" she asked. I exhaled. "I'm not punishing you," I wrote. "I am protecting myself." After that, the messages slowed. The night after the 8th contact attempt, Leon and I sat on a small balcony with beers, watching the lights of the city flicker. It was late October, cold enough that we could see our breath drifting in front of us. "You know what I respect about how you are handling this," Leon said. "You are not being cruel. You are not dragging her or trashing her to everybody. You are just done. That is harder than yelling." I laughed softly. "Learned that from watching you," I said. "Your divorce was messy." Leon grinned. "A lot more yelling," he said. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. He took a drink, thinking. "Every day for the first month," he said. "Then not at all after that." He looked over at me. "You regretting it?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "Just tired." Leon nodded. "That is normal. My advice: do not date anyone for at least 6 months. Just be alone for a while. Figure out who you are without her." I nodded. "That is the plan," I said. "You have been half of something for 8 years. Time to be a whole person again." 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment in Wicker Park. It was small, affordable and mine. Exposed brick, creaky floors, a narrow kitchen, and a big window that looked out over a busy intersection. I moved out of Leon's place after 6 weeks on his couch. I decorated simply. A used couch from a resale shop, a small dining table, a bed, no framed wedding photos, no decorative signs with scripted words about love. I started going to the gym again, early in the mornings before work. I reconnected with old college friends I had drifted from during marriage. One weekend, Leon and I took a short road trip to Milwaukee just to get out of the city and watch a basketball game. I started noticing something I had not felt in years. I had more money in my account at the end of each month. One night, 2 of my friends from Northwestern, Chris and Jerome, invited me out to a sports bar in the River North neighborhood. We had not all hung out together in years. They had invited me out plenty during my marriage, but Jasmine usually had something else planned, or she would sigh and say she had hoped we would spend the evening together. I often gave in. That night, as we clinked glasses, Chris lifted his beer. "So, you are single again," he said with a small smile. "Welcome back." Jerome leaned in. "How are you holding up for real?" he asked. I thought about it. "Better than I expected," I said. "I miss the idea of what I thought we had more than I miss her." Chris exchanged a look with Jerome. "Jasmine was always a bit much," Chris said carefully. Jerome shot him a warning look. "What?" Chris said. "I'm just being honest. Remember junior year when she got furious because Rashad came to that concert with us instead of going to her early birthday dinner?" I remembered. "Her actual birthday was the next week," I said. "Exactly," Chris said. "But she acted like you deliberately chose music over her on her special day." I realized I had trained myself to forget those moments, to minimize them. She had a way of making you feel bad for having your own life, Jerome said. We noticed. We just did not say anything. I frowned. Why not? I asked. Jerome shrugged. You seem happy, he said. Or we thought you were. And no one wants to be the friend who talks badly about someone's wife. We spent the rest of the night talking about ordinary things. Sports, work, travel plans, random television shows. At one point, Jerome asked the question I knew was coming. Are you seeing anyone? He asked. I hesitated. Sort of, I said. Just started. Taking it very slow. They both nodded approvingly. Good, Chris said. Do not rush into anything. Give yourself time to breathe. Walking home through the cool night air, I realized how light I felt. Having friends, laughing without feeling guilty, staying out late without checking my phone every 10 minutes. It was like remembering a part of myself I had packed away in a box and forgotten. Around that same time, I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Patricia Howard's office was in Lakeview, in a brick building with old wooden stairs and the faint smell of tea in the waiting room. Our first session was awkward. I had never done therapy before. What brings you in today? She asked, folding her hands in her lap. My wife and I are getting divorced, I said. How do you feel about that? She asked. I stared at the patterned rug. Fine, actually, I said. That is the problem. I feel fine. We were together 8 years. Should I not be more upset? She tilted her head. Should you? She asked gently. I shrugged. Everyone keeps asking if I am okay, I said, like they expect me to be falling apart. I am not. I am relieved, and that makes me feel like I am doing it wrong. Dr. Howard gave a small nod. There is no wrong way to feel, she said. Tell me about the relationship. So I did. Over a few sessions, I told her everything. The way I had supported Jasmine through graduate school, financially and emotionally. The emotional affair with a classmate that started with late-night study sessions and turned into, I think I'm falling for you, text messages. The counseling sessions afterward where Jasmine cried and promised to be different. The 18 months of comments about feeling trapped and missing out on her 20s. The reunion. The way I had stood up and walked out. She listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting a note. When I finally ran out of words, she leaned back in her chair. It sounds like you have been grieving this marriage for a long time, she said. Long before you left physically. I frowned. What do you mean? I asked. You kept records for 18 months, she said. That is not something someone in denial does. That is what someone does when they are preparing for an ending they already know is coming, even if they are not ready to say it out loud yet. I thought about evenings sitting on the couch, hearing Jasmine on the phone in the other room, saying she felt like she had missed her 20s. About typing notes into my phone and then staring at them. So I was not really in the marriage anymore, I said slowly. Were you? She asked gently. I sat with the question, then shook my head. Not for a while, I admitted. Then it makes sense that you feel relieved, Dr. Howard said. You did the hard emotional work long before you walked out of that bar. You are not ending a happy marriage. You are formalizing an ending that already happened in your heart. That landed in a place I had not known was still tender. For the first time, my calm did not feel like coldness. It felt like the result of a long, painful process finally reaching its conclusion. The question now, she continued, is what you want moving forward. I took a breath. I do not know yet, I said. That is all right, she replied. That is what we will figure out. I kept going to see her every 2 weeks. Slowly, I began to understand that Jasmine's comment at the reunion had not been a random cruelty. It had been the public confirmation of private doubts I had been carrying alone. One evening, I was sitting in my studio apartment, listening to music and cooking dinner, when I realized something. I had gone the entire day without thinking about Jasmine. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just not at all. I texted Leon. I think I'm actually okay. I wrote. He replied almost immediately. About time, he wrote back. A few weeks later, Jasmine's friend Alicia called me 2 weeks before a final court date. I hope it is okay that I am calling, she said. It is fine, I replied. What is up? Alicia hesitated. I wanted you to know something about that night at the reunion, she said. I waited. Jasmine was talking about you all evening, she said. Before you got there. Complaining about feeling tied down, about missing out on her 20s. We all thought she was just venting. We did not realize how serious she was until you walked out. That is not on you, I said. I know, Alicia replied. But after you left, She tried to play it off like you were being dramatic. We were not buying it. Brittany asked her straight out if she even wanted to be married. Jasmine said she did not know. She said she loved you, but she felt like she had missed something by getting married so young. I let that sit. It hurt, but it also confirmed what I already knew. My fiancé, Alicia added, he is great. I know I am ready to get married because I dated other people. I lived alone. I figured out who I was. Jasmine never did that. I think she resents it. No, I said softly. She did not. She calls me sometimes now, Alicia said. She asks about you. If I have heard anything. I do not tell her much. For what it is worth, I think you did the right thing. Walking away took courage. For months after I walked out of that reunion, we stood in a courtroom downtown. The judge reviewed our agreement, flipping through the pages slowly. The room was quiet except for the shuffling of paper. Jasmine stood beside her lawyer in a simple black dress, twisting a tissue in her hands. I stood next to Stephen, my palms dry, my heartbeat steady. Are both parties certain they want to proceed with this divorce? The judge asked. Jasmine hesitated and glanced at me. I met her gaze briefly, then looked back at the judge. Yes, Your Honor, I said. Yes, Jasmine whispered. The judge signed the documents. You are both free to remarry, he said. That word, free, sounded different now. Not like something Jasmine had been chasing alone, but like something I had earned too. In the hallway afterward, Jasmine stopped me. Rashad, wait, she said. I turned. Her eyes were red but clear. I just want you to know, she said, you were right about everything. I took you for granted. I did not appreciate what I had. I know that now. I nodded once. I know, I said. Is there any chance? She began. I cut her off gently. No, I said. She swallowed hard. I deserve that, she said. You deserve someone who makes you want to stay married, I replied. I deserve someone who does not have to convince herself that I am enough. She blinked back tears. I hope you find that, she said. I hope you figure out what you actually want, I answered. Then I turned and walked away. This time, I did not feel the urge to look back. 6 months later, in late March, I sat in my Wicker Park studio scrolling through listings for one-bedroom apartments. I had been promoted at work. My savings account was growing steadily. I had joined a recreational volleyball league at a gym in the West Loop and was generally content. I had met someone through that league. Her name was Maya Sullivan, 29, an elementary school teacher who lived on the South Side. She was confident and independent and knew what she wanted. We had been on 4 dates and were taking it slow. Our first date was coffee after a volleyball game, both of us still in sweats and sneakers. We sat by a window and talked for 2 hours about teaching, city neighborhoods, favorite restaurants, and how annoying parking in Chicago could be. At one point, Maya looked at me over her mug. So, you were divorced? She asked directly. Finalized last month, I said. That is recent, she replied. Are you ready to be dating? I appreciated her honesty. I think so, I said. But I am taking it slow. I promised my brother I would not just dive into something to fill a void. She nodded approvingly. Good, she said. Me too. I am not interested in being someone's rebound. She hesitated. What happened, if you do not mind me asking, she said. I took a breath. She told her college friend she married too young, I said. I agreed with her and left. Maya's eyebrows rose. Then she laughed, not unkindly, just surprised. That was it, she asked. That was the final straw, I said. There was a lot before it. There always is. Our second date was dinner at a small restaurant in Bronzeville. Maya insisted we split the check. I like paying my own way, she said. Keeps things equal. Our third date was at a museum. We wandered through the Art Institute of Chicago for hours, standing in front of paintings while she told me what her students would say about them. She made observations that made me see things differently. Our fourth date was drinks at a bar in Logan Square. She told me stories about her students, funny, frustrating, sweet moments that made it clear she cared about them. I told her about Leon, about learning to live alone again, about how strange it felt to buy single-person groceries. You seem remarkably well-adjusted for someone freshly divorced, Maya said, smiling. I had a long time to prepare for it, I said. Mentally, I left that marriage 18 months before I physically left. The difference between her and Jasmine was striking. Maya thanked me for small things, genuinely and without prompting. When I offered to pay for everything, she smiled and said, I appreciate it, but I like being independent. She asked about my day and actually listened to the answer, not just waiting for her turn to talk. There were no guilt trips, no sighs when I made plans without her, no subtle punishments. She simply enjoyed my company. One Saturday afternoon, I went to a Whole Foods in River North to buy groceries for a dinner I was cooking for her that night. I had a cart full of fresh vegetables, chicken, spices, and a good bottle of wine. As I turned a corner near the pasta aisle, I almost collided with another cart. We both froze. It was Jasmine. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "Rashad." I nodded. "Hi, Jasmine," I said. There was an awkward pause as shoppers pushed around us. "How are you?" she asked. "I am good," I said. "Really good." I took in her appearance quickly. She looked different, tired around the eyes, older in a way that had nothing to do with age. Her cart held single-person portions, frozen meals, boxed wine, and a few random items. "I heard you were seeing someone," she said. I nodded. "I am," I said. "That is good," she replied, trying to smile. "Is it serious?" I considered. "It could be," I said. "We were taking our time." She nodded slowly. "What is she like?" she asked. I paused and decided to answer honestly. "Grateful," I said. Jasmine flinched slightly. "I see," she said. "She appreciates things without me having to point them out." I continued. "She says thank you without being prompted. She wants to be there. She does not make me feel like I am keeping her from a better life." Jasmine looked down at her hands on the cart handle. "That is what you deserve," she said quietly. "I sold the house," she added after a moment. "I could not refinance. I could have technically, but it felt too big, too empty." She cleared her throat. "I am in a one-bedroom in Lakeview now. It is fine." She did not mention her savings account or the fact that her reunion friends were mostly married and busy and less available for spontaneous nights out. "I have been thinking a lot about what I said that night," she said. "At the reunion." I nodded. "I'm sure you have," I said. "I was so foolish," she said. "I had everything and I did not see it." I shook my head. "You saw it," I said. "You just did not value it." She winced. "I know that now," she said. "That is good," I replied. "Growth is good." She looked up at me, eyes glossy. "Does it matter that I know now?" she asked. "To you." I shrugged. "Hopefully it matters for you," I said. "For us, no. It does not change anything." She nodded slowly. "I know there is no going back," she said. "I know I burned that bridge completely." I surprised myself by shaking my head. "You did not burn it," I said. "You just showed me it was never as strong as I thought." She swallowed. "If I could go back to that night," she began. "You cannot," I said. "And honestly, I am glad it happened." Her eyebrows lifted. "What?" she asked. "Because I was miserable," I said. "I just would not let myself admit it. You saying what you said out loud gave me permission to stop pretending." She blinked. "You were miserable for a long time," she said softly. "Trying to be enough for someone who did not want what I was offering," I replied. "I should let you go," she said, glancing at her cart. "You probably have somewhere to be." "I am cooking dinner tonight," I said. "For Maya." Jasmine nodded. "That is nice," she said. "You always were a good cook." "Take care of yourself, Jasmine," I said. "You too," she replied. She hesitated. "And Rashad?" "Yes." I asked. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For not hating me," she said. "For letting me learn the hard way." I shook my head. "I do not hate you," I said. "I just do not love you anymore." That evening, Maya came over to my apartment. She wore jeans and one of my sweatshirts she had borrowed after a volleyball game. I cooked while she chopped vegetables at the counter, laughing at my stupid stories about Leon and our road trip. Music played softly in the background. The silence between conversations felt comfortable, not strained. "You are quiet," she said at one point, looking at me with one eyebrow raised. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I ran into my ex-wife today at Whole Foods." Maya stopped chopping for a moment and leaned her elbow on the counter. "How was that?" she asked. "Fine," I said. "Actually really fine. I felt nothing much, just a little gratitude." She smiled. "Gratitude for what?" she asked. "For being here," I said. "For this. For the fact that you are in my kitchen, and I am not worried. I am holding you back from something better." Maya wiped her hands on a towel, walked around the counter, and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for inviting me," she said. "Thank you for showing up. Always." It was a simple moment, but it landed deep. She said, always, without weight, without resentment, without any sense of being trapped. She just meant it. I realized that this, right here, was what partnership was supposed to feel like. Equal investment, mutual appreciation, no scorekeeping, no resentment humming underneath every conversation. We ate dinner together at my small table. She told me about her week. I actually listened when she talked about a student who struggled with reading but loved drawing. She laughed at my jokes. She helped clean up without being asked, humming softly as she rinsed plates in the sink. At the door, as she pulled on her coat, she smiled. "Same time next week?" she asked. "Or sooner," I said. She grinned. "Or sooner," she echoed. After she left, I cleaned up the rest of the kitchen, the sound of the city drifting in through the window. I thought briefly about Jasmine alone in her apartment in Lakeview, about the choices she had made and the path they had set her on. I did not feel anger. I did not feel satisfaction at her loneliness. I felt nothing but a strange mix of hope for her and gratitude for myself. Because sometimes the worst thing someone can do to you ends up being the best thing they could have done for you. Jasmine's cruel honesty at that reunion table had finally given me permission to stop pretending everything was fine. I had spent so long trying to be enough for someone who did not actually want what I was offering. Now I was with someone who appreciated all of it without needing a crisis to see it. Jasmine walked away with her regrets and her smaller apartment and the long process of figuring herself out. I walked away with my dignity intact, my sense of self restored, and a future that felt entirely mine again. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.